I'm messing with you, Mr. Pauls. Good evening. It's Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. It's 6:30 PM. We'll be calling to order the City of Franklin Common Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll? Don't mess it up.
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Alderwoman Day.
Here.
Alderman
Elect.
elect Salus.
Here.
And Alderman Craig.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as many of you know, this is a special meeting, so it's post-election, so we will now turn this over to Madam City Clerk and have the oath of office. And the first oath of office will be Alderman Pecorelli. And if family wishes to come up and be part of it, however you want to do it, it's up to you. It's a good time. Pictures, everything. Get that Franklin football hat going. I love it.
John Pecorelli, having been elected to the office of First Alderman of Franklin, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the office.
Very nice, very nice. Excellent. Okay, next up would be the oath of office for Alderwoman and current Common Council President, Michelle Eichman, 2nd District. There you go, Michelle.
Michelle Eichman, having office of the second Alderwoman of the City of Franklin, swear that you will support the Constitution of the States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, faithfully and impartially discharge the office to the best of
I do. Thank you.
Congratulations. Do you want to have them sign it and then we'll move on?
He signed. We did. Michelle signed first.
Okay, next up is Alderman Nabil Salus, District 5.
Say right there, okay. Please, do you, Nabil Salus, having been elected to the office of 5th District Alderman, swear that you will the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of that office to the best of your ability.
Pictures up there. Very good. Congratulations. Okay, excellent. Moving forward, we'll go to item B, citizen comment period. Normally I read the rules of decorum, but I'm going to skip it. Anybody wishing to come to these, speak tonight, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I will be the official timekeeper. Seeing nobody, close citizen comment period. Moving on to letter C, approval of the minutes. Approval of the regular common council meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Seeing any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Going on to D as in David hearings, a proposed ordinance to amend the City of Franklin 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan to change the City of Franklin 2025 future land use map for property located at 7220 West Ryan Road from commercial use to mixed use and areas of natural resource features, approximately 3.72 acres, ECE Hills applicant. Mr. Fuchs, good evening.
Hello. So this is a request, as you mentioned, Mayor, for a comprehensive master plan amendment for the property at 7220 West Ryan Road. It's a proposal to also rezone the property to a planned development district. The applications are to accommodate a 7,389 square feet of retail space and then 38 dwelling units. The applicant is proposing a general approval for the planned development district. So they'll come back with to the Plan Commission with details as far as the site plan, landscaping, lighting, architecture, those type of details. The site plan consists of a two-story mixed-use building off of Ryan Road. The first floor would be the retail space, and then 9 one-bedroom apartments on the upper floor, and then 4 apartment buildings on the rest of the site. They will need a natural resource special exception as they move forward with the project if approved. The entrance drive will impact wetland buffer, and wetland setbacks. There's also some steep slopes on the property that will get impacted. But again, this hearing is for the comprehensive master plan amendment.
Excellent. Do you mind reading the hearing notice?
Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Common Council, Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Common Council Chambers of Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin, 53132. Applicant is Paul EC Hills LLC, property owner. Property at 7220 West Ryan Road, tax key number 884-9999000. Proposal is to amend the future land use map designation for property located at 7220 West Ryan Road containing approximately 3.72 acres from commercial use to mixed use in areas of natural resource features. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirements of Wisconsin statute 66.1001, parent 4, parent D.
Thank you, Mr. Fuchs. It's 6:38 p.m. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Any citizen wishing to speak on this matter and this matter only, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Going once. Anybody wishing to speak? Seeing no one, it is still 6:38 p.m. and we will close the hearing, open up questions, concerns from members of the council. Alderwoman Day.
Did we want to do them now or with the action items
Well,
later on?
I would say now to ask Mr. Fuchs if we want to at this point. You have a choice. We can do both, but since he's up here now and maybe it's all fresh in his mind and.
I'm good either way. I just didn't want to jump the
Go ahead.
shark if we wanted
Jump
to
in.
do this later. Okay. 1 second. Page forward here. So these have been before Plan Commission a few weeks ago, so I'm familiar with both of these items. A few questions came to mind as I was rereading them, however, before this meeting. And my first question is more procedural for city staff. So when a developer comes to the city for a particular project, do we try to steer them in the direction where they wouldn't have to do master plan amendments and zoning changes and that type of thing? Or do we, this is kind of a crude analogy, or are we kind of like the ugly girl at prom who's going to dance with anybody who asks them to? So if a business comes in and says, hey, I want to build
Wow.
here.
You guys all get that?
It's like, hey, if I want to build here, we're like, sure, we'll make it work, because it kind of seems like that's what we do. And I get that the prior master plan and the prior UDO are old and outdated, and that comes with the territory of that. But being on Plan Commission and knowing what's coming forward with the potential new zoning map, this still wouldn't be what would be recommended for them. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money coming up with that zoning map. So I guess my question is, why do we continue to square peg round hole things? It just seems like it makes a lot more work for developers, for city staff, for council, if there are sites that we could direct them to instead. So this is just, it's sort of a procedural question. And then my question for this specific development is based on the density calculations that's almost, well, it is actually over double what would be recommended for this area. So I guess I'm just questioning, it doesn't seem like, I'm not against the concept of the development, it just seems like this is not the area that it was intended for.
So it can depend when an applicant comes to staff. Staff will look at the proposal and, I'm sure there are instances where there's pushback or staff doesn't feel it's a good fit or compatible with the surrounding area, and that discussion would happen. Sometimes there's compromises that occur between what is being proposed and what staff would recommend. And the comp plan and zoning is always part of that conversation.
So I guess with this one, when I look at the new zoning map and see how this is laid out, it looks like it's supposed to be RMF for multiple families. And then when I look at the permitted conditional temporary uses, retail is not a part of that, although it is kind of discretion for staff and discretion for council to make those exceptions. So I guess, again, I go back to, we spent a lot of time and a lot of money on these documents, and it seems like we're continuously having to make exceptions when I feel like we need to be looking for ways to not continuously do that and keep making a lot more work for ourselves. Again, this has nothing to do with the actual developer or their plan. The longer I stare at this, the longer I'm struggling with this being the right fit in that location. That I'll yield.
I would just comment, I guess, that, I'd keep in mind that the comp plan is a guide and planning document. It's not anything that really is set in stone. I mean, it's a best guess of what may work there. There's market conditions that can change, that can impact that. There could maybe be a better idea that comes in that should be, considered by staff in the city. So it is a guide. I think if the future would be multifamily where this is located off of Ryan Road, having that, 7,000 plus square feet of retail, may make sense in there opposed to just strictly multifamily because of where it's located in Ryan Road. It's a bit unknown what the adjacent parcels are going to be developed as, but.
And the density piece?
Again, and I didn't think it was over double. I'd have to double check. They are over the allowance, but it is something that the code specifically allows council to permit them to exceed that. So
Understandable. It's a corner with a lot of traffic issues already that is not being improved upon. It's just being kind of resurfaced and whatnot. So it's not getting wider. It's not getting more turn lanes. It's not, getting better. So putting more things right in that spot is problematic. So I'm struggling to get there the longer that I look at this. And again, I've had more kicks at the can of this than a lot of my colleagues up here at the desk just because of Plan Commission. So it could just be one of those things where I've read it, one too many times, and now I'm just starting to see the cracks in the lining, but.
Alderman Craig.
You mentioned about the natural resource special exception. How significant is that going to play with this development?
Well, it's significant as along the front of this property for access. It is going to be something that's needed. So I mean, it is a critical piece to access the site for whatever development would.
Would this then be kind of getting the cart in front of the horse as far as it goes? Because if this gets something that is looked at and saying, 1 for 1 as far as square footage goes or anything like that, where that might be not recommended by the Environmental Commission, I wouldn't want to get ahead of ourselves and maybe
Sure.
kind of box people in and saying, well, you kind of gots to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think typically and preferred is often to have really all the detailed plans and applications at the same time, everything to run through concurrently. So you're a little more in depth to have a better feel whether, DNR approval is going to be granted and things like that. Again, the code does allow for like this general approval, or potentially do a rezoning and comp plan amendment for those details, because applicants do spend significant time and money developing those plans, going through the engineering of a development, and those type of details. So it allows them to pursue that, make that investment with a better feel that they know what steps are needed, but they know the city is okay with that, at least that zoning and that concept of a plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Pecorelli, then Alderman Luce, then Alderman Eichmann.
Thank you. So to add on to other days' comments about that road right now is getting resurfaced, but no other improvements being made. And then the density factor that's there and the type of, it's going to be a lot of people's residents, right? And then you also have commercial that's there, or retail. I'm assuming that there's going to be a decent amount more traffic that's there and that isn't where Highway 100 it's not extended to be multi-lane to that point. Has that been looked at all as part of this? Is that's still to be coming? Like what?
At a higher level, they do, it is a shared drive that they're proposing with the other property, which should help. And there is a condition when they come back for those detailed plans that a traffic impact analysis be completed. So that'll provide a lot more details on the traffic and the impact it may have.
I'll yield.
Alderman Sloss.
Regarding
It's your first time talking, so make it, everybody's watching.
regarding the wetland issue, we have to be careful condemning parcels of land in the city over a small spot of wetland. The system allows, the compensation. You condemn, you fill a small piece of wetland, you make up for it in a different part of the property. Otherwise, you'll end up condemning half of the city over, environmental issues, and we have to be extremely careful doing that. And having like a few retail shops at the front, to be honest with you, I feel this is positive because there is a high traffic in there, and it's, if someone willing to put a retail strip, mall in there or few shops, I believe that is something, positive, and I definitely encourage seeing the, commercial development all over the city. And I don't see any harm on that. The master plan is nothing but a guide. Sometimes you try to implement that, but you can never implement that to the dot. So.
Yield, you good? Alderwoman Eichmann.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just questioning if it was looked at, and maybe this will come in place with the traffic analysis, with it this much density and having the commercial property here, with one way in and one way out, is that a concern at all? And as far as with our Franklin Fire Department, police, since it's more congested and there's really on here just one way to enter into all of this and one way out.
I don't recall comments specifically on that from other departments. But again, it's been looked at the higher level, and would be looked at closer once they submit the more detailed plans.
Thank you.
Alderman Hussein.
Hussein, Hassan. Sorry. Thank you. So I don't really have any questions, but just a comment that it really looks good for me. I don't have any problem with this plan, so. I yield.
Okay, so, Mr. Fuchs, procedurally, going forward, we normally would go into a motion on your part. Are we going to wait until after G4 and 5 are discussed and motion from there?
City Attorney.
I'm talking like normally in plan commission when we do these hearings.
The
we have-
later items would be subject to an amendment to the comprehensive master plan, so this goes first.
Good. Would you like to read the motion?
This would be. Go off the agenda. So a motion to amend the City of Franklin 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan to change the City of Franklin 2025 future land use map for property located at 7220 West Rhine Road from commercial use to mixed use and areas of natural resource features.
Is there a motion for this?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Excellent. So now we have a lot of organizational business because this is post-election. So we're going to move up to E. So we could take this as one motion unless somebody has a separate action on this. Madam Clerk, what are your thoughts? I thought it was under this first. Okay, so we'll move back. We'll do the election of the Common Council President first. Then we'll go into the mayor and aldermanic appointments and commission appointments and so forth. So what we'll do for this nomination of Common Council President, we will first open up the floor for nominations. You can nominate yourself. And then the Madam Clerk will then hand out ballots. There is a paper shortage in Franklin, so that's why they're this small. And you're gonna put the person as clearly as you can print it. These are the smallest, this is the smallest I've ever seen in my life.
You only need to
So-
put a name on it.
Well, you're gonna get a small piece of paper, do not lose it, and then put the name on it and pass it into Madam Clerk, and she will then read them aloud. So why don't we open up the floor for nominations at this time?
I'd like to nominate myself.
Alderwoman Eichman is nominating herself. You do not need a second. Anybody else wishing to nominate or be nominated or nominate themselves for the position of City of Franklin Common Council President? Still strong.
I'll nominate Courtney Day.
We have a nomination for Alderwoman Courtney Day. Alderwoman Day, do we accept that nomination?
Sure.
Alderwoman Day accepts that nomination. Anybody else wishing to nominate themselves, nominate someone else? I will close that, so we have two, Alderwoman Eichman and Alderwoman Day. I'm going to hold these real carefully. I'm going to just bypass you.
They are tiny, my goodness.
Please pass them when you're done in. We'll get them to the Madam Clerk. Please print clearly.
They got smaller.
He did get small.
Mix them up.
Make sure you speak loud and clear, please.
Yes. We have one vote for Alderwoman Eichman. We have a second vote for Alderman Eichman. Alderwoman, sorry. We have one vote for Alderwoman Day. We have one vote for Alderwoman Eichman. We have one vote for Alderwoman Day. And we have one vote for Alderwoman Day.
So we have a 3-3 split, as we discussed and as has gone through last time. We will cast another vote. We'll do this one more time. So Madam Clerk will be handing out the ballots again.
Okay, we have one vote for Alderwoman Day. We have one vote for Alderwoman Eichman. We have one vote for Alderwoman Eichman. We have one vote for Alderwoman Day. We have one vote for Alderwoman Eichman. And one vote for Alderwoman Day. So we have a 3-3 tie again.
Okay, 3-3 tie. In this instance, the mayor breaks the tie. I will then return Alderwoman Eichman as president of the City of Franklin Common Council. So congratulations, Alderwoman Eichman and Alderwoman Day for your. Now we're moving forward to the mayoral aldermanic appointments and boards and commissions. If there is any reason to take something out of order as individual, please bring that forward. If not, I would like to see us make it a blanket motion with a roll call.
I'll make the motion to have them all together.
I'll second.
First, seconded by Alderman Craig. This will be a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pecorelli,
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Salus. Alderman Craig.
All right, 6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. So we don't have any letters, and when we get up to these G parts, we're gonna be taking a few in a different order to help them flow better with what's going on here. So, first thing, Mr. Schleter, if you mind coming forward. So this is the mayoral appointment of the Department of Public Works as weed commissioner for the calendar year of 2025 with a weed cutting fee of $125 an hour, or what the common council deems appropriate. So there's a little history here, if you don't mind, Mr. Fuchs, sharing your microphone. So a little history, if you wouldn't mind giving the history lesson, Superintendent Schleter, and then I'll chime in as I see.
On past what happened with the weed.
Yeah, I mean, so we had Ninneman for
Yeah,
how
we
many
had
years and what we was paid and
Gene Ninneman.
challenges and,
Yep. Gene Ninneman was the past weed commissioner for many years. I believe the city clerk put it out for request this year
For bid, yeah.
for bid, and nothing came back. We stepped forward, being the deep public works, that we would fill in for it. We're going to charge the $125 per hour. We feel that's what it would cost for our machinery and personnel cost.
could you give me an example? Could you hit your button, sir? Could you give me an example? I don't think everybody showed how to use that. It's very technical and weird. So an example, Mr. Schleter, of what this is. So you get a complaint, kind of walk us through a situation or a scenario, because a lot of people don't understand how this is, and they're like, wow, how much an hour? Wow, and they just clarify that.
We're going to be working with the city clerk, who has a standard procedure.
Right.
When a complaint comes in, and sure,
Yeah, when a
Clerk, if you would.
complaint comes in, the weed commissioner goes out and makes sure it is a violation of municipal code violation. If it is, then we send the resident a letter, certified in regular mail, because sometimes they know it's coming and they don't pick up the certified mail. So if we don't get either one back, we will assume that they got the regular one. if the certified mail comes back, because some of these people are year after year, so they know it's coming. And then they have 5 days to cut it. If they don't cut it within the 5 days, then the weed commissioner goes out and cuts it. Then they send us an invoice. Gene would send us an invoice at how many hours, the property location, the people's name on who owned the property. Then we would send them an invoice. If the invoice is not paid, then it's put on their property tax bill.
Could you give an example of a property? Is it residential? Is it commercial? Is it all properties in the city of Franklin? And I'm doing this so anybody that's paying attention at home kind of gets a grasp of what this is.
It's
all-
all properties.
So let's say I'm on North Cape Road and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do no mow May for the next 5 years.
If the city
Now what
clerk-
happens?
If the city clerk receives the complaint, she'll forward it on to us at the appropriate time. We'll go out, check it out, and follow through it as it is stated. And if we need to go in and cut it, we will do it at the appropriate time.
Right. And once they're notified, they're not notified each time. The weed commissioner will just put it on a rotation and go out to make sure that it's being cut.
Thank you for the clarification. Comments, Alderman Eichmann?
Thank you, Mayor. My first concern, but I addressed this with the mayor, was staffing, because we often hear that the DPW is low on staff. But the mayor did go over that with me. And again, this is going to be in the warmer months, so it's not, the guys obviously won't be out plowing, so that's not an issue. So you feel you're adequately staffed to do that? To be doing the weed?
We will attempt to do it on regular time,
Okay.
but there is a good chance we may be doing some of this on overtime, but I did price it appropriately.
Okay. If it does come to the point where we're seeing a lot of overtime, can I ask that it be brought back to council again to be reviewed and possibly put it out to bid? And it's just that overtime, I don't know what that does to our budget. It'd be probably more of a finance question.
It-
If I
Would that
could-
be appropriate?
Well, we
Or
did
no?
put it out.
Yeah, it was already put out
Right,
to bid.
but
And we got no one.
we're seeing excessive overtime.
But
And did the residents pay that overtime?
I did price it appropriately in the
Oh,
125
that
fee.
is, okay. I'm sorry, I
So
misunderstood
if that, when the fee is paid, it would reimburse the city.
Thank you. And then a second thought process on this is because we do have some habitual people in the city, within my own district, that just, for whatever reason, don't care to cut their grass. When now they have a City of Franklin DPW truck out there, and it's City of Franklin equipment, that's almost more of an embarrassment to that resident, that maybe next time that'll prompt them to cut their grass, versus a landscaping company that goes out there. It looks like they hired a landscaping company, the neighbors think nothing of it, but it might be a little bit more of an embarrassment in a good way, prompting that resident to then keep up with their yard. So I think it's good in that factor too.
And if I could just ask, Madam Clerk, if you could repeat that once, when you said that once we do it,
Yeah.
then we can
once-
redo it
Once
again.
the property owner has been notified that there's a violation, once DPW would go out there and cut it, if the violation, if they haven't kept it up, they will just automatically go out there and bill, and send us an invoice and let us know, and then we bill the property owner.
So just so everyone's aware that we will continue it on.
They have to continue on, with it, to make sure it's cut then throughout the summer.
Thank you.
Do you yield?
Yes.
Alderman Picarelli?
So to that, just adding on to that then is, I just want to make sure that the amount we're billing is high enough that we do not become the landscaping option for people to get their lawns cut, let's say, right? So I just want to make sure that it's at a high enough number that it is a deterrent as opposed to someone looking at it and going, well, it costs X amount every time I get a cut. If I would pay somebody, this is actually, I don't want to be in a situation where this is cheaper, and we end up with a problem from that.
It was 90 before this.
It was
Go ahead.
90.
It's 90, now it's up to 125.
I get
So-
that, but we're, before we had somebody else doing this, and now it's DPW. That's the
But it
old,
was, what
that's
it
my
what it
only.
was, I think, and not to interrupt, but you still have the floor, and I do want to comment on that.
Yeah, my only comment was, it's DPW doing it, and my gut is they might be using different equipment and stuff too. So that's where that was my only concern.
I'm sorry.
No,
No,
Kevin,
you-
go ahead.
I am-
Say the numbers. I was gonna say it was
Yeah,
only
yeah.
like 4 or 5 a year.
Yeah, it's not many, but believe me, I won't hesitate to be back here to raise it if
If it becomes a problem.
if I see any sign of that, I will be right away.
Sounds good. Thank you. I yield.
A lot depends upon the weather too. If it's a
Yep.
wet year, we get a lot more of them. If it's not,
Okay. Thank you.
Any further comments on this?
I'll make the motion.
Seeing none?
I'll
Alderman Song.
second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Superintendent, thank you for your guidance and leadership. G2, a resolution to issue change order number 1 for the 2024 local street improvement program to decrease the contract price by $34,729.33. Who is taking this? Okay, Madam Director of Finance?
I just want to make sure this will close out the contract then. Are they still working on the program or would it be done after this change order?
It'll be done after this change order unless we find, a warranty issue.
Okay,
That would be the only time they'd come back.
okay.
And staff recommends this. So is there a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G3, a resolution to authorize a professional services contract with TRC Companies, Inc. to provide engineering services to address the contaminated soils on West Cortez Circle in the amount of $4,303.51. Mr. Poulos, our city engineer, good evening and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. This goes back to the recently completed Highway 100 work. Unfortunately, there were some contaminated soils found within the construction zone, particularly at Cortez, which is a city right away, so it becomes a city problem to correct. The DNR has issued a what they call a no further action request. So in order for the city to complete that, we have a proposal in front of you from TRC Companies to perform the work necessary to close this out. And then the scope is listed. I won't read it to everybody, but the scope's listed there, and that will satisfy what the DNR is looking for to put this to rest.
Questions from the council?
Just-
Alderwoman Day?
Just clerical. There's nothing for the fiscal note. Just curious where the funds are coming from, just for,
It's just going to come from the engineering budget.
okay, thank you.
And also, unless it was an accident, the proposal's not in the packet.
It's under the agreements, the standard
Oh, so
city.
did we get a proposal from,
We did. I don't know if that's not in here. I think you're right, but it's reference, well, it should be in here, but it's referenced with the agreement, and there is a proposal that matches the dollar amount.
okay.
But we use the city's boilerplate terms and conditions.
Okay, Mr. Pecorelli?
So I don't have a lot of background on an NFA. So it looks in here that there's discussion, removal of some soil. So discuss the removal of some soil and compare that to samples, discuss. What happened? This is all done. What has occurred?
The city will have done their due diligence. We're done unless somebody goes and excavates that area someday and finds some other issues. Otherwise, this will satisfy the DNR. We'll put this issue to
So it's
rest.
pretty much some documentation.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Will they fine us if this work isn't done?
It will not make the DNR very happy, so something we need to do. I like to keep the DNR happy.
Okay, there's a motion on listed here. Is there a motion for this?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So now we're actually going to do G5 and then go back to G4 at the request of Mr. Fuchs. So I will read this.
But I think we ended up with the hearing, we did G5. So really it's just,
So we're going to keep in normal order now.
so G4, G5 is done, and then normal.
yeah, you had them read them.
Okay. Yes. Well, that's, okay, so we're going to do G4 normal order. Then we're going to where G5 has been satisfied then, is what you're saying?
Correct, after the hearing, there was a motion on that.
Okay.
Read it.
I read it, and it was.
So we're going to skip, because we spoke before the meeting tonight to make this change. So now we're going to return back to normal order. So G4 right now, ordinance to create section 15-3.0448 of the Franklin Unified Development Ordinance establishing Plan Development District Number 43, Ryan Commons, and to rezone property from R8 Multiple Family Residence District to Plan Development District 43, located at 7220 West Ryan Road. Mr. Fuchs.
This is, like I said, earlier in the meeting, under the hearing, this project was discussed. The Plan Commission did recommend approval to rezone the property to PDD number 43, and staff is also recommending approval.
Thank you. Any discussion from council? There's a motion listed.
I make the motion.
Mr. Sons is first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderman Eichman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. G5 is stated has been satisfied. Now are we going to go to G7 before G6?
Correct.
Okay, so now we're going to go to G7. Resolution conditionally approving a final plat for Ridgewood Reserve subdivision, generally located to the north of West Drexel Avenue, east of South Ridgewood Drive, and west of South 76th Street. Creative Homes, Inc. Property owner and applicant, Mr. Fuchs, you got the floor.
This is a final plat for the Ridgewood Reserve subdivision. It's located, it's on about 6.56 acres. There are 9 single-family lots along a new road. The staff did review the final plat. It is in conformance with the preliminary plat that was approved by the city. All the lots are also in conformance with the R6 single-family district. So the Plan Commission recommended approval, and staff is recommending approval as well.
So we have a double approval. Mr. Prisbilla is also here. Good evening, sir. I always like to recognize him when he's back there. Didn't see him. So do we have a motion
I'd
on
like
this?
to make the motion to adopt.
I second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Returning back to G6. Resolution authorizing certain officials to accept a conservation easement for and as part of the approval of a final plat for Ridgewood Reserve subdivision, generally located to the north of West Drexel Avenue, east of South Ridgewood Drive, and west of South 76th Street. Creative Homes, Inc., property owner and applicant, Mr. Fuchs. You got the floor again.
This subdivision does have an outlot that contains protected natural resource features, wetlands, wetland buffers. So there's a conservation easement attached. It follows the city's standard template. So staff is recommending approval.
On both ends, right? Plan, everything.
Yeah, the conservation, yeah.
All right.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. G8 in D6, resolution conditionally approving the final plat for the Cape Crossing Edition Number 2, subdivision at approximately 1220 West Ryan Road, Cape Crossing LLC applicant, Mr. Fuchs.
This is the third and final phase of the Cape Crossing subdivision, addition number 2. There are 42 single-family residential lots. Again, with this subdivision, the final plat is in conformance with the preliminary plat that was approved by the city, and staff and Plan Commission are recommending approval.
Excellent. Before we go for the motion on this, did you ask the council? This was where myself, Alderman Eichman, went there for the ribbon cutting for the construction skills class, working with O'Brien Homes. It was amazing, and that was it was very eye-opening on how the demand was $664, I believe the house went for. It's unbelievable, and the students built it. So there is a motion here presented.
I'd like to make that motion.
I second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. G9, D2, resolution authorizing certain officials to accept a conservation easement for and as part of the review and approval of a site plan and natural resource special exception for property located Properties located at 8225, 8255, 8429, and 8459 West Forest Hill Avenue, Franklin Public Schools. Mr. Fuchs. Mr. Cromie, how you doing?
Earlier, previously, the school district received approval of a site plan and natural resource special exception for several improvements on this property. It's addition to the administrative building, a parking lot, soccer fields, a trail. So again, this is part of that process that they needed to actually revise an existing conservation easement, create this new one. So it does follow the city's template, and staff is recommending approval.
Excellent.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt.
Second.
We've got a first and a second by Alderman Craig. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. What? Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. Fuchs, for the applicant, perhaps instead of simply the word none on the mortgage page of the document mentioned, perhaps more clearly state there is not a mortgage or property owner owns free and clear, just for process.
But that does not affect the motion.
No.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Fuchs?
Yes.
Mr. Cromie, any on that? You all right with that? Good. Thumbs up. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G10, D6. Resolution conditionally approving a two-lot certified survey map being a parcel of land located in that part of the southwest 1/4 of the southeast 1/4 of section 18, township 5 north, range 21 east, in the city of Franklin, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, Robert G. Montgomery Family Trust, property owner located at 8570 South 116th Street. Mr. Fuchs.
The property owner is requesting to subdivide the existing 18.33 acre property. The lot 1 would consist of the existing home and accessory structures. It's about 8.2 acres. And then lot 2 is about 10.1 acres. It's understanding that the property owner may look to develop that with a single-family home in the future. The applicant has addressed staff comments. The Plan Commission recommended approval. I do want to note that there will be a conservation easement to follow. The applicant is working with staff on drafting that. And there are the pond on the property, and some of the abutting wetlands around that pond have been determined to be man-made. They're exempt. So when that conservation easement does come forward, and the CSM will be revised to reflect that those are not part of the conservation easement and are not required for protection.
Thank you. Questions from the council? There is Mr.
So with that being said about it being a man-made easement, how are the exceptions going to kind of factor into that? I mean, I know it's a work in progress, but is it going to expand upon the man-made wetlands, or is it going to be new wetlands that are going to be established?
So there are other wetlands on the property that would be part of that conservation easement. The pond and where the DNR is exempted wetlands would just simply not be part of that document.
So we're not going to touch that, either expand or contract?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I want to be clear on. Thank you.
Would you like to make the motion, sir?
Please and thank you. I would like to make that motion to adopt.
We have a first.
I second.
Seconded by Alderman Salas.
Salus.
Thank you. Correcting me a lot tonight. I like that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. G11, update to ARPA COVID Recovery Program grant contract. Madam Director, want to take that, or? Does motion to allow the Director of Health and Human Services to accept the updated ARPA COVID Recovery Program contract to continue funding health department grants, if there's a motion on this?
I would like to comment and make the motion.
Yes, sir. You got the floor.
So I had the chance to really sit with the Board of Health yesterday for the first time. And it seems like they really do a lot of nice work for the community. And they try to keep our community like drug-free, substance abuse-free, alcohol-free, tobacco-free, so that's great. And for all of that, I would like to make the motion to allow the Director of Health and Human Services to accept the updated ARPA COVID recovery program.
I'll
Okay,
second.
we've got a first and a second. Further discussion, Alderman Day, did you have something? Nope. Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G12, motion to approve the Director of Health and Human Services to accept and execute the Alliance Wisconsin Youth State Opioid Response, which is SOR4 Prevention Grant Agreement. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G13, request common council approval to allow the fire department to dispose of a decommissioned pickup truck, 2 decommissioned lawnmowers, and miscellaneous surplus equipment. Good evening, Chief, welcome.
Good evening to the council. As you mentioned in the request, we've got some surplus equipment that we would like to auction, and we would propose following the same procedure we have used in the past, using the Wisconsin Surplus Auction Site. That site is used for this type of equipment quite frequently, has a large audience. They facilitate the entire sale. The buyer pays the any fees that are involved, and the auction site cuts a check to the city. So it's been very effective for us in the past. The good news is we're going to bring in a little bit of revenue. The bad news is it's not going to plug any of our big holes, only going to be probably a couple $1,000s. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for the chief?
No question, make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. G14, a resolution approving a partial property tax recession and refund for tax key number 850-0019-000. Madam Finance Director? Anything on this?
Yeah, this is just a reduction in the assessment by $300 due to the assessment actually, or due to the parcel actually being exempt.
Okay. Is there a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G15, a resolution approving a partial property tax rescission and refund for tax key number 748-9981-002. Madam Director of Finance, anything else or same situation?
This is slightly different. It's another reduction in assessment. This one is due to the water source being on a well instead of city water.
It is on North Cape Road. We are all on
Wells.
Interesting. Is there a motion on this?
Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
First and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, G16. You also have extra documents that were provided to you with much more detail, which I'm very, very happy about because there's got a bunch of questions. So G16, funding oversight and financial reporting accountability for public programs, senior citizen groups, senior travel program, St. Martin's Fair, and civic celebrations. Let's see here. Madam Director of Administration?
It was brought to my attention that some of our programs that are listed here are not meeting their financial reporting obligation. So this is just a follow-up to the council. If there's something that you would like us to do, certainly this would be, I guess, the opportunity to talk about how you want us to handle that. But overall, we have 2 programs that run at a deficit that we need to start looking into and hold those programs accountable to their budgets. And so that's really what this is all about, is to bring these 4 programs to the council, the 2 senior groups, the reporting with the senior citizen group, I believe will reconcile itself with the new president, who has been informed of the situation and has received documentation of that requirement. I think it was this week or last week that was taken care of, so I anticipate a response. The senior travel program, we have made attempts and they have gone unanswered. So, and that one also had gone over budget last year by roughly $500. So also, in addition to the reporting, we really just need to know where the money that's budgeted for this is going and to have them stay within their budget. St. Martin's Fair, we spend quite a bit of money on personnel for that fair, and I'm not exactly sure what the city gets in terms of revenue from that fair. So I think it's important to kind of have these conversations and talk about it. Do we want to continue to fund these programs, or do we need to start kind of reining things in and potentially looking for other ways to increase revenue? And I think with all four programs, we really do need to have some sort of financial reporting, because we need to have a regular basis where we can see the checks and balances of everything, really, and keep everybody where they need to be. So the St. Martin's Fair one, I'm not as familiar with if we get anything for the fair. I suppose I would.
Yeah, as far as revenue, we get permits and donations, but there's really no other revenue generated from that particular event.
Right.
And since you're talking about the St. Martin's Fair, I wouldn't mind chiming in for a second. So going back, I would say at least 15 years when I was on the Fair Commission, I chaired it, and we were cost neutral until the point where it switched to having all staffing costs we're now putting onto the fair. And what I mean, so that was every DPW, firefighter, and police officer, and the amount of overtime that was now put in there. And it was the loaded overtime, so it means everything, every benefit, every cost, everything went on that fair. And I believe it's over $50,000 now for the fair. They're like 53, 52, if you chime in.
52.
$52,000 to run a two-day event where it's virtually very, very low incidents occur. Now, I'm going to be cautionary here because we put on a very friendly, safe family event that's been part of our community since August 1958. And I say it this way because that's when we stole it from Hill's Corners. We've had it in our community since 1958. It's been there every year. It's been the same spot. And it's a staple of our community. I believe it's just what the first thing we need to do. And first, there's people up here that have not been to the St. Martin's Fair. If you have space, don't get confused that if you come to the city clerk's office and you get a permit, that means you have space. That's not the case. Space has to be rented from the residents that are the property owners. That is a big twist. So that's a big twist. I do, though, feel that the next step should be meeting with the police chief, the fire chief, and the superintendent of DPW to see what cost savings measures they can provide as far as what would still provide a safe event, yet bring those costs down, because that's where we're getting walloped. We are getting absolutely destroyed on that cost. And again, I fully realize that balancing act to make sure that we ensure as best we can a safe community event, which it has been, and that's the kicker. Because last St. Martin's Fair, last Labor Day, Sunday, Monday event, it was sunny and 75 degrees. It was the perfect fair. It was hugely attended. I believe the numbers for the two-day event were over 200,000 people that attended based on aerial photos and measuring how they do with the people and whatever every couple hours. And it was widely attended, but it wasn't there were no issues as far as arrests, citations, because of the earlier times, the shutdown for the outdoor music, outdoor beer, all that beer, whatever sales outside. So this isn't the Wild West that it was 40 years ago, where you could have music until midnight or later. So I think if the council should consider bringing in those department heads or I can, on behalf of the council, which I was going to do anyway, is reach out to them and start getting that plan honed down to, what are we looking at here? Arrests, citations, lost kids, medical calls. What are we talking about here? But still putting on a safe event. So that's my 2 cents on this. I'll turn it over Alderwoman Eichman, then Alderwoman Day.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to say I appreciate this being brought to council's attention on these 4 different groups, items. I think it's very important for us to take a look at and monitor so changes can be made. As far as St. Martin's Fair, since we were just discussing that, would we be able to once again increase the vendor costs? I know we did last year, correct?
Last year,
The year before.
we changed the cutoff
Right.
because they all come in Friday for the event, and then there's a bunch of stuff.
Your microphone's not on.
There's a bunch of stuff that we have to do to get things prepared for the people who go around Friday.
Because I feel that that's something, and I am on Fair Commission, that we should take a serious look at, is increasing the prices of the permits. As one step.
Yeah.
And I thought about, charging a entrance fee or something. It's impossible with all the different ways people can get
It's
in.
an open air event.
Residents that saw this on the agenda that are not on the Fair Commission had some ideas, but one was to have a city orchestrated booth where the city sells beverages and so forth. But my concern is I don't want to take anything away from the establishments, that this is their, they greatly depend on this income this time of year. So I agree with what the mayor said, and I appreciate you, Mayor, wanting to meet with police and fire to see what we can change on that. Increasing the permit fees, that's the only thought I have as far as St. Martin's Fair. I have lots of comments on the others, but I'll yield on that for now.
Madam Clerk?
One thing that people don't realize, the restrooms, I think for this year, it's close to $20,000 for just the restrooms. So, and we called around a couple of years ago, we lost the vendor that we had all the time. It was very hard to find a vendor that would come in and clean the restrooms after the first event. Most of them will not do that until the event is over. So we had to get more restrooms because they'll come in and they'll clean certain ones. But the restrooms, that is a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Madam Director of Finance? And Mr.
Just a
Peccarelli?
suggestion for this item. I think it may be beneficial if we just all discuss one item at a time and maybe just start at the top and go down so that all of our questions could be answered and not jumping around is my thought.
Well, then why don't we just start with the St. Martin's Fair since we're already on it?
That's fair.
Good. So, Madam Clerk, you stood up the floor?
So, the restrooms are a big part. I don't know if you can take,
Yes.
it was brought up a couple of years ago why the police and the fire and DPW, those fees don't just stay with that department because they're supposed to service the city. So I don't know if that's an option or not, but that has been brought up a few times.
Right. We'll have to meet, maybe have a St. Martin's Fair Commission meeting earlier than we normally do and discuss some of these ideas, would be my suggestion.
Right.
The mayor and I are each on the Fair Commission as the clerk, so. With that, I will yield on St. Martin's Fair.
Okay, I'm going to comment one thing before Alderwoman Day, please. So this has been brought up before in times regarding the staffing, because when that change took place, and I'm not going to point out D1, Alderman, but the two behind you just hated the fair. They didn't like the fair, they didn't go to the fair, and it's like, well, we got to do something about it. So we will, and I think to Alderwoman's point, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sorry, did you want to speak, Mr. Peccarelli?
Yeah, I
Before
don't know.
Alderwoman Day?
So all I wanted to bring up was, and it goes across all the things we're talking about, So I can either wait talking about that at the end, or I can bring it up.
If it's
now.
fair related, hit it now. If
Okay.
not, we'll go back.
So you bring up like the bathrooms, and there's things that are, I'm on the Civic, right? So as I'm listening to all this, there's a lot of stuff that's the same issues with the personnel costs, that's really what drives things, and our costs with a number of things that are the same types of things. So one of the questions I have in all of this is there a way to, from a city standpoint, negotiate out these contracts instead of my assumption right now is Civic's negotiating contracts, the Fair Commission's negotiating contracts. Can we take that, since it's all the costs are coming back to the city, can we take that up a level and see if we can negotiate more broadly across those? Because otherwise, each one's doing a smaller amount, right? And if we kind of bundle them together, we may be able to get reduced costs on some of those items. So I like the idea. I mean, overall, I like the idea of kind of looking at this holistically. There are differences in each of these, but that was one of the thoughts I had when I was looking at just the list. So I'll yield for now. I didn't have anything specific to the fair, and I'm not my predecessors, I guess.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
We'll see the Pecorellis there. Madam Director of Administration, then Alderwoman Day.
Sorry. I just wanted to note that this is the only program on this council action sheet, the fair that is, that does not have any kind of responsibility to financial auditing or reporting. And I think that that is a huge miss and something that we have to reconcile. I think all 4 programs have to have some sort of reporting auditing that is put on them at least annually. And I think that the fair not having it is concerning because it's something that as taxpayers, we owe the residents this information, and it should not be top secret or just not even provided. It really should be information that's out there. We do it with the senior group, the senior travel, and we also do it with the civic celebration to an extent.
Right, and just to piggyback one thing regarding the fair, is when you bring up, well, we should raise the fees. That's the dangerous part, because we could, raise ourselves out of vendors. And the bigger thing, again, the biggest challenge is, what does a private citizen landowner charge for a vendor? And some of them just refuse. So some of those new residences that were built, as you see spaces, when I walk the fair and we check permits, and people will say, well, why is there nobody here? There's less people here every year. Well, the people that own these properties aren't the ones that were there 30, 40 years ago. They're new ones. They're like, no, I don't want to have any vendors here. I don't want this. I don't want that. And we have no control over that, yet it doesn't look good for the city in their eyes when they see spaces that are not taken. Alderwoman Day.
Thank you. So completely agree with what the Director of Administration said, that there needs to be some sort of culpability for the budgets for these programs. It does seem like they have budgets set, within the city budget, but absent of any reporting mechanism or them being held to it, it just seems like we're just running, it is kind of like the Wild West with funding. I have a few ideas, and I think, I agree that, perhaps this is something that there needs to be a few meetings where the Civic Celebration and the Fair Commission meet together, because to Alderman Pecorelli's point, that a lot of these pain points are the same for both events. But some of the things that I've thought of before, because I had the issue when I was a department director of trying to fund this, because clerks and health also put forth effort into St. Martin's Fair. So there's, so the thought was, in certain instances, I know not everybody, but in certain instances, could volunteers be used rather than city staff? Now, this is different for police and fire. I'll get to that in a second. But, if there's, 1 or 2 people trained for the clerk, could they put out a, volunteer? Or the health department has a huge volunteer registry. Yes, the sanitarians have to be there, but instead of 2 additional paid staff members, could they be volunteers? So then it's not necessarily that piece. Is the is Bell Ambulance cheaper than our EMS services? Is private security or the police auxiliary force a better alternative than sworn officers? I don't know, but I think there's some staffing things that may be able to bring some of the costs down for one or both of those events. And I believe, and I could be speaking out of turn, but I believe the difference for vendors at Civic Celebration, and Madam Clerk, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Civic Celebration, they have to, a portion of what money they take in, they give back to us.
Of the food,
Does
yes.
does that happen at St. Martin's as well? Okay, so there's another difference. So like there's differences, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but there's differences that I think if both of these groups met together, there might be some joint ideas or fixes that one is doing that the other isn't, that might make the bottom line better for both of them.
Yeah, last year was the first year, only one person from the clerk's department checked. We put it back on the committee, and the committee is the ones that went around, and we had one person from our staff instead of 5 working on that Sunday.
And just to add before we go to Madam Director of Administration, when we're out there and we say we're checking permits, we're also, because I do it every year. I've been doing it every year for 15 years-ish. And there's also selling added space. So you're checking a permit, and if they exceed, the clerks open it up, they check, and they sell extra space. So the extra space, I don't know if it was last year, but other than that, years prior, was paying those wages. So it was at least a cost neutral part for there was quite a bit sold. So whether it was or wasn't, that's right there. It's close. Alderman Eichen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to say something else, but I want to add that. And then when we walk around checking permits, as I've been doing since I've been older, 3 years now, we also walk around with a police officer for safety reasons because we're often collecting money right on site too. Just to throw that out there. Could that be a security guard instead? I don't know. There was an incident, not this past fair, but the fair before, where the Franklin Police Department was definitely needed as we were going around checking permits. But at that point, if it was a security guard, could we then radio into the PD that we needed them there? I don't know. But what I wanted to mention is in that meeting that I recommended that we have sooner than later as St. Martin's Fair Commission, if we could please also, if they're willing, bring in the Director of Administration and Finance Director to give them, you know, the education on why we need the reports Administrator mentioned. And
Absolutely.
that would be excellent if they could both be there. Thank you.
For discussion?
Yeah, I can just say that from the knowledge that I've heard and gained through this, it seems as though the St. Martin's Fair has always been running a deficit. And I don't know if it was ever intended to necessarily be a revenue generating fair. However, from the financial aspect, there does come a point where city tax dollars does have to compensate. And as you can see in what I gave to you, and even prior to 2014, you know, every so many years, there's a large lump sum that will be incorporated into this fund to allow it to be back in the black, and then it will slowly start to decline again, and then you'll have to put another lump sum in there. So I'm not sure from a revenue side what you can continue to do to generate revenue besides increase permit fees and try and increase donations to make this profitable based on what is going on and the lack of alcohol sales and the amount of goods being sold and how the city's not recouping any of that. And I'm sure that there's a reason for that as well. But just to be clear, this was never intended to be a profit generating fair, but at some point we have to do something where we're not losing between 20 and 35,000 a year on it as well.
Right.
And, you know, wasn't it profitable until police and fire
Yes.
and DPW started charging for their
you gotta
I
look-
honestly don't know because I only see till 2014. I don't know about prior to that.
Was prior to that, to your point. It was prior to that because Rosie Bosch, who chairs it now, she was the fiscal guru for that, and she's got all that information. Alderman Day.
The argument is we're still paying ourselves, no matter where it comes from, whether it gets charged to this fund or it falls into the overtime fund of those departments. I mean, the money's still that those fees are still there. It's just, they just come out of a different pot then. So this is less red, but other people's, budgets then become a little bit more red. So it's still the same money.
Correct. It's still taxpayer funded. It's still
Yeah.
right out of the levy.
So
It's
I
still a
don't know
deficit.
what the solution is, but my thought was just looking at different staffing options, whether it's volunteers, where volunteers could be used. Can we use, private security versus PD? That might be a little cheaper. I don't know. But it's just a thought.
Alderman
One more
Eichman,
thought. From attending, I attended the fair last year, probably the most I have in my lifelong residence in Franklin. And it seemed, and I'd rather talk about this privately, Mayor, but it seemed that between DPW, police, and fire, there's a lot of downtime for some. I won't say which area, but I think we could cut back on some of it, most definitely. Because they're there to work versus having fun and, to see people standing around a lot.
well, why don't I stop you right there,
Yeah.
please? And then we'll go on. Mr. Pecorelli?
I'll wait till we get to civic.
Okay, so what we'll do is then we'll stop with the St. Martin's Fair part. We'll move forward. I believe the proper direction would be to have I'll reach out to the chair because these meetings are at the call of the chair, and I'll have her get one soon, as soon as she can, because tax time is now, well, hopefully done today for her, or at least reduces quite a bit, and then get that with the department heads, because that, in my opinion, my elevated opinion is that's what I would do, is because that's 53 grand is insane, and that could probably be cut in half, because not everybody that's working that day should be overtime, because that still is a patrol zone, it still is a response zone for fire. I'm not going to belabor that. I'll wait till the meeting. All right, so why don't, if everybody's good now, why don't we go back to the top tier, senior citizen group wants to start that conversation.
I can just speak to that
Go
again.
ahead.
Kelly had mentioned that there is a new president who has now been notified of the requirements per the council, the the biannual meetings. And they seem to be on board with coming forward as soon as they can to present those to you guys. So I don't see much of a concern as the senior travel program.
Okay, discussion on senior travel program at this time?
I will,
Senior
Yeah.
citizen group at this time? Okay, moving forward to the senior travel program.
I'll start by just saying that the senior travel program has been running consistently under budget to a point where they have requested that we carry forward funding. However, in 2024, they did overspend even with the additional funding that was approved through a budget amendment by $500. But most importantly, the annual reporting that is supposed to go to supposed to come to the council has lacked. And doing some research, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that they've presented a financial report to the council in at least 3 to 4 years. I think that there may have been one time that they have in 3 to 4 years, and it seems as though as much as we've tried to reach out and communicate the requirements to them, there's been no further discussion and or no response. So at the discretion of the council, it now just comes down to, does the council want to halt funding for this program? Does the council want to cancel the program? Do they want the city staff to continue to reach out in hopes that we will receive some sort of response? Just looking for some sort of direction now that the obligations are not being met.
Right, some sort of mechanism of enforcement or to push those requirements.
So regarding the senior travel program, that's where also Lisa Huning was trying to reach out to this individual, and this individual has not responded at all?
Correct.
Because I see this individual normally at the senior dining on the first Wednesday of the month at Swagger.
Yeah, I can
So-
say at least maybe 8 to 10 emails just in the last year and a half without any response.
Well, it would be my ask of the council that we will see him. I see him at every lunch, so I think we would like to give a direct reach out there, say, I assumed that this was being dealt with, and that's why I have not approached that individual and asked him to respond. Madam Director of Administration, thoughts on that?
I would say that staff has reached out countless times. To your point, there have been 8+ emails in recent times.
And voicemail, phone calls, it's not just emails, it's phone calls, voicemails with no response to it.
Right, so I would highly recommend that a elected official reach out and get some sort of compliance with this program.
Agreed. Alderwoman Eichman.
Have we sent letters or certified letters to this individual? Can we say the individual's name? I mean,
No.
Well, let's not say that. Let's just, okay, certify, I mean, if there's an email, I will give
What if he
you,
changed his email address?
as the Common Council President, I will provide you his cell number and you can give him a call tomorrow. Is that fair?
He probably won't answer.
I will happily send certified letter to do an extra due diligence, absolutely, but
Otherwise, I feel, if I still have the floor, it's okay. I was going to say earlier, I mean, it comes down to at least a threat that the program's going to have to come to a halt with clear understanding to all the seniors.
Yeah, this will
This
be
is the
spun.
reason why. It'd have to be black and white out there because we don't want any of the seniors that really enjoy these programs, as we know.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, this will be
I mean-
spun in a very negative way. So we're going to do everything we can to get to this individual to make sure he puts in the report that he needs to be putting in, is my opinion.
Well, and I think that all 4 of these programs really come down to, we need to restore financial discipline. We are expected as staff to operate within our budget, which is tight for operations. And yet we are consistently seeing additional extra programs going over what their budget is year after year after year. And that is a serious concern. I mean, and we have to improve transparency. When we're not getting reports, we don't have transparency, but I think that also we need to make sure that there are certain requirements that are being reported on. And if they are not, there should be some sort of mechanism to either force compliance or to take it to another level. I don't want to take away the programs. What I don't want is to consistently run a deficit on programs and then the city is continually throwing in taxpayer dollars to cover programs that have a budget and just don't care about it or care to adhere to it. There's a number of different ways where I think all of these can kind of come more into staying within their budget. I just feel as though the oversight is lacking. The compliance, obviously, the enforcement of compliance is seriously lacking. And something has to be done because this should be an automatic. We should have this be an automatic reporting piece for our citizens.
Well, I agree with you, but we're not canceling the senior travel program because of one person's inability to do some paperwork.
That's not what I said.
Well, I'm gathering that when you say accountability and we don't want to cancel, we don't want to cancel it, but we want to make sure that we have accountability. I agree with you 100%, but I didn't know this. I thought this was done. I'll yield for now.
Just a quick note. I'm just like wondering why can't, I support that this program remain in place, but at the same time, if there is committees in charge of these programs, they should be coming here, assigned by the council that, there is a guidelines here, you in charge, you as a committee, you have a responsibility to break even. They sit down, they put their budgeting together, they know how much they want to charge, we should not get into the setting fees or these details, but at the same time, there has to be some, the idea that they not respond to your communications, that's ridiculous. So, that's what I would do.
And I think from a commissions and committees standpoint, we were looking up the ordinance earlier, and I think the council has the ability to, or can, with some changes that we are going to be recommending at a future date, potentially either, reducing the authority from the chair or, changing the ability to
Having a having oversight, financial oversight, checks and balances that currently don't exist, or at least don't exist to the need that they should. And I think that, to your point, certainly the volunteers, this is their baby, their committee, and they're invested in it. However, it comes down to that responsibility of spending only what is in your budget. And I think that there's certainly a number of things that I'm just going to assume this based upon our conversations about these items, is that we would certainly sit in and provide some checks and balances and some oversight, at least initially, to get things back on track.
And moving forward with, if, the people who are in charge of the committee are not adhering to the budget, what are the repercussions? Is it removing them from the committee? I don't think that we have that ability with the senior travel program, but if we do, and, the person running the program is not complying, is there a way that the city can say, well, then we need somebody else in charge, putting some of those checks and balances in place too?
And all this craziness, Mr. Beccarelli, you get the floor.
All right, and my question isn't specific to it's going holistic again. So, yes, I agree with the idea that we need oversight and better, I'll say consistent reporting. I know I've been on Civic for, 8 months or something like that, and I've asked a lot of questions and kind of changed how we get some information and things like that, just to give a better idea of going forward, as we make decisions, what are we projecting that's going to affect, right? Because a lot of these things, as we were talking about before, you change dollar amounts on tickets and things like that. Well, you could always think it's going to stay the same, but you raise to a certain level and that stuff declines, or we're going to bring something new and we're going to get rid of something we had before. So and see how that affects, right? And I will say, from being in, like I said, in Civic, there's definitely discussion on the bottom line related to how this is going to fare. But I think having consistent and knowledge, and the knowledge of what, how all of you have, this is what we want to see, this is how we want to operate, everything like that. I think that would help, because I get the sense that everybody's trying to figure out the right ways to do things, and I think everybody's got good intentions to get all those things done, but that's not always everybody's skill sets. And there's other things that are in place that might be helping, or we might be duplicating in an area and we don't realize we duplicate. So I do think there's a lot of value in getting a little more, I'll call it control, over this, without necessarily taking away some of the ability of those commissions or the groups and things like that to make individual decisions. But I do support putting some more, I'll say, rigor over it. And the other part I'll bring up is, we got to figure out, when we go into the next fiscal year, when do we have to have any of the financial reporting reviewed before you unlock a certain amount of funds in that year? Because that's another way you could address it, is if you don't get that information, there's only so much funds, or you're on an 18-month back, and so we have to be looking at, a year and a half back or whatever it is, and keep that moving forward. Just some kind of cadence to that, and that gets in the cycle of when we do budgets and all those kind of things to kind of carry that forward. So another thought there.
I'll say, from my chair, I've never had any involvement or engagement with anyone from the St. Martin's Fair. I know that, the chair of the Civic Celebrations Committee does come forward roughly around March-ish to present last year's financials as well as a future budget. However, I made this clear at the last meeting that was attended that we're still not generating enough to run the civic celebrations at the rate that it's going. And there has to be some sort of checks and balances within that committee. And what's being presented to the council isn't always as accurate as what I'm seeing from my chair. And I made that clear as well. So I think that presenting to you what you have really shows line by line and every single check that got cut for 2024 and maybe where we can have some improvements as far as the St. Martin's Fair and civic celebrations. But just to be mindful of when at least civic celebrations is coming forward, that the questions are being asked. And maybe from my chair, I can have knowledge about that presentation coming forward beforehand so that I can then present you from the actual accounting system what I'm seeing. Because I know clearly on the sheet that's presented, it says, you know, personnel is not included in that. And so it can kind of be swayed by your decision making on moving forward with the budget that's being presented and then where the civic celebrations goes from maintaining contracts and moving forward that way. So
Yeah, I think Civic in general was running, I'll say a little in the black for a number of years. Every once in a while, depending on weather and other things that happen, right, it can fluctuate. In recent years, it's really the personnel costs, I think, overall thing that's been driving.
Over 50,000.
Yeah.
80 in civic celebrations.
Yeah, so, and the other thing that happens with civic celebrations is it depends, I'm learning more and more about this. So it depends on the number of days, because it depends on when the 4th is. If it's a 3-day or 4-day event, it depends on where it falls in the week. That does fluctuate a lot of the attendance numbers and things like that. And there are, like, as Alder Day brought up, there are differences in how, so like they collect revenue in different ways and things like that. So there are some, there are things that have been looked at, but I think a lot of people, at least on the civic side, a lot of people have the assumption that somehow the city makes money or something on that, or breaks even or something. And I think there's it's an overall great event. It's just, we got to figure out, I think on the civic one, we got to figure out the personnel situation. But I would add on civic, I also think it's good to have, because it's around the 4th of July and you've got the fire in you got fire and parade, you got police and parade, you got all that stuff. I think it's actually valuable in that instance to have the Franklin fire and police there, because it's also an opportunity for people to interact with them as well. So I do think in that specific case, because of the nature of what it is, I think there's a lot of value in those groups being in there, as opposed to like private security or things like that. I'll yield.
Alderwoman Day.
Thank you. Just one last comment that I have is that and this goes back to something that the Director of Finance mentioned earlier about how it doesn't seem that, these events were ever made to be profitable to the city. And I agree. And I don't think a lot of residents would necessarily hold us to that, but I think where they will hold us accountable is that we need to be a little bit more, have a little bit more oversight over these programs, just to make sure that their tax dollars are being spent judiciously. I mean, costs always go up. There are certain things that, we can't control. But I think there are probably some places where we can rein it in, or at least have a little bit more oversight or communication. I don't know in these two particular groups. I know there are some people in both groups that have been there for a very, very long time, but there's also a fair number of new people who probably don't have the history or know necessarily all of the things that, from the city's financial side of things, what goes into this with the city's budget. So I think there's room for improvement, but I don't think anyone up here is looking for these to all of a sudden be in the black. But we do need to have more oversight from these groups and have them at least be responsive to wanting to be a part of that conversation and kind of keep costs in check as best that they can.
To that end, if I may, we need to really have some more control on this, especially those last two. The running deficits is extremely concerning, and there is a way to balance revenue and expenses, and that's what we really have to look at doing.
Have we transitioned now to civic celebrations? I know. Hold on.
That's fair, yeah.
We have, okay, Alderwoman Eichman, and then we're gonna,
Thank you. So we can all see on here the taxpayer funding, civic celebrations was given 13,000 every year. Last year, we gave them 30,000, and they still went over budget. You know, that's concerning to me. There's many things on here where I can see improvement, the T-shirt cost to get
okay,
the print.
Alderwoman, I'm just, so now we're transitioning to civic celebrations, right?
Right, I believe that.
Okay, so
We're
now,
on civic.
okay, want
I
to start the
thought we had.
conversation? Well, that's why I said, are we moving forward? So now we are, because I know I have a bunch of them too, so.
Okay.
Alderwoman, why don't you start?
Okay, thank you. So I just, to note, under the taxpayer funding, as I mentioned, the 13,000 every year, and then we were generous enough to give them 30,000, over double last year, and they still went over budget. That's concerning to me. Things that jumped out to me, the cost of the T-shirts is very alarming to me. Very alarming. $4,000 for T-shirts to be printed for this? That's insane. And I just don't understand that. On average, I believe there's about 70 volunteers. I have volunteered and signed up to volunteer this year. I've volunteered in past years. We get T-shirts, but how the process works, it's very generous. We're given tickets to thank us for our service, which is very kind. Volunteering is fun. If anyone hasn't signed up yet, I always enjoy it. Then we're given our T-shirt, and then we go do our duties. We don't usually put the T-shirt on. I never have. So to reduce the cost in those T-shirts is maybe having a name badge, with a pin where you can slide your piece of paper in, not versus a sticker that could come off with the heat. Aside of those such as John and Ann and so forth, they of course would have the T-shirts that they wear. But I think we could save a tremendous amount of costs in T-shirts. And it was my understanding that every year for Civic Celebration for the 4th of July, every employee of City Hall gets a T-shirt. Is that not necessary? Do all employees at City Hall here wear them or need them? It just seems like that T-shirt cost, that's something I really would like to dig into. And it's only in effect to help them. That's alarming to me. There's many things I could go on and on, but I want to take a look at some of the things in the parade, who we're paying, why we're paying them the amount we're paying them. And the mayor won't be surprised by this, but I don't think we need to be spending $1,500 like we did last year on a horse and buggy to drive us older people around in the parade. It was nice. I appreciated it. It was an experience. The mayor and one of the county supervisors chose in the end not to ride in it. I was scared a little bit. It was beautiful rescue horses. They did buck up a little bit. I think we could eliminate that. In other communities, I know the Civic Celebrations was concerned when we each have our own parade car, that it can be time consuming. I like the recognition, walking through the parade, seeing people I grew up with that I know living in Franklin versus us all. So many people commented to me, oh, how come you were in the parade last year? We didn't see you. I just don't think that's necessary for $1,500. We could always have one lead car that has all of our names on it, and we walk as a group, kind of like I believe the school board does, is an idea to save time. But that $1,500, every little dollar amount adds up. I also feel, and again, this is nothing derogatory to anyone listening from home or anyone that would be watching this after it's recorded, is it seems to me over the years, the amount of donations have gone down. We've got some pretty big manufacturing corporation companies in the city of Franklin. I believe in the past, and Alderman, you may know, they were being contacted via email to give a city donation. I almost feel like we should go back to old school cold calling, walk through the business park, attend the business park monthly meetings, and ask the businesses. I'm not going to name specific businesses on the top of my head, but knowing personally some of the business owners, I know for a fact 3 or 4 just off the top of my head definitely would donate and contribute something, whether it's even $50, a couple hundred. I just feel that the outreach maybe just needs to be looked at differently to some of these manufacturers and so forth that we have in Franklin. Let's see.
Could I comment on one T-shirt thing while you're looking for your next
Please.
point?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I did is I reached out, because when I was with the county, the House of Correction, I'm not sure what it's called now, but has a print shop, and they provided shirts, T-shirts, sweatshirts, printed, and it was very reasonable, like $6 something a shirt. And when I do the math in my head, I don't know how $4,000 comes up. Let's just say you want to do 100 shirts, and it was one color, meaning let's say you wanted to go with the high vis with the black, the blue with the white, or the gray with the blue. Those were the three at the county for the parks. And you were gonna, let's say you want to do two colors, let's another dollar or something. It still does not break that $1,000 mark, and I don't understand where that number comes from. That is a crazy number, knowing that we can work with the print shop at the House of Correction in Franklin, and we can provide them this, an order and to look, and now you're employing inmates there to doing the inmate labor. They're learning a skill, they're providing a service. We're paying a greatly discounted rate, and we're keeping everything local. And I don't understand why that's not being looked at. Maybe it will after this meeting. Maybe there'll be some discussion after this meeting with them. But I will for sure be reaching out to the two chairs that are running it right now and at least give my 2 cents for that. So I'm going to yield going back to Alderwoman. She still has the floor. Okay? Then
Briefly,
Director of Administration, then Mr. Pecorelli.
thank you. Briefly, the thought of bringing in more food trucks, making food more friendly to residents in Franklin, such as an Indian food truck that I know is available, so that when people attend with their families, there's food that attracts to everyone versus just what we have. I think there's room to add at least a couple more food trucks, and we would make money off of that. As far as their main show that they have, such as in the past they've done wrestling and so forth, this year is a golf simulator. Who approves that? I mean, the $9,000 drone show last year, that did come to council. I was not a fan, to be honest, for $9,000. We need to be looking at some of these things more, and things that are family friendly for everyone. And I'm just wondering, in watching a few civic celebration meetings, are Robert's rules followed in it? Do you vote on everything, or
Mr. Pecorelli?
is it okay to ask? Thank you.
I just recognize him, so he's on the floor now.
I would say loosely yes, but I wouldn't say it is, it's not as blank as it is here.
Alderwoman, you're back to
Okay,
you.
thanks. I'll wrap it. I have a lot more, but I'll wrap it up. And next year's our Franklin's 250th anniversary, which we need to make extra special, which is going to cost more money. And I just wanted to add, I think that John and Ann and everyone do a fantastic job with our celebration. So this is in no way meant to be derogatory. It's meant more to help, so we don't have this deficit and this loss of money, because at the end of the day, we are responsible, as the city administrator mentioned, for taxpayers' money. So we have every right to question, give suggestions, and so forth. And I do agree with the city administrator that we need a little bit more control over many areas of this to look at some of these things. I mean, the T-shirt thing alone is one example. No words on that, but I will yield. Thank you.
Madam Director of Administration.
I was curious if it wouldn't make sense for those interested or have feedback to potentially have a offline conversation or meeting to really kind of dig deep into all of this versus the suggestions and that sort of thing, instead of we go around and
Agreed.
provide that. Because I've just, from a time standpoint, I think that there's those people that have a lot to say that would be really interested in helping and have a lot of ideas, and we can have a separate meeting with them and the committee or the
Agreed. I
committee
think
chairs.
before we go to Alderwoman Day, I think the smart thing would be is we, have those two, have a meeting here. We can post the bad key for those electeds that want to go and express their concerns and some solutions, because I'll bring forth
Right.
solutions. Alderwoman Day.
Thank you. And I think the other thing too is, instead of, I feel like some of these organizations kind of work backwards. It's like they spend and then look at the budget second, as opposed to, here's my budget. Now I have to plan my event to stay in this budget, because if you think about how, anybody, works with their budget, if you spend first, usually that's when the problems start. So I think, for a lot of years, these committees were kind of left to, do whatever it is that they wanted to do because no one was really looking at the financials in this detail. And so a lot of things maybe, with regard to the t-shirts, I don't know this to be true, but maybe this is the vendor they've used year over year. So the prices go up. They're not looking for new vendors because they're, so overtaxed with doing all the other things, So I think there's a lot of things where, it's just, we've done it this way every year. So we're just going to keep doing it that way. But I think, the focus maybe this is what's in your budget, now go down, as opposed to this is what I've planned and I'm over budget, can I have more money? Which is kind of what happened the last few years. So I think we've been doing it a little bit backwards. And then the one last thing, because this is going to jump us out of order, but Alderman Eichmann's comments triggered something for me for St. Martin's Fair. Ditto for them with donations. Why doesn't anybody think about getting donations for St. Martin's Fair?
We
There
have.
could be,
We have.
like-
I did them. I would go door to door. We had a letter. We did all that stuff, and it's just tough.
I understand it's tough and money is tight everywhere, but I think, I don't know if that's, still something that group does. But I think,
Yes.
maybe a different strategy for them as
Say a little
well,
louder.
if it goes to,
They did $1,750 last year in donations.
$1,750 of donations for the St. Martin's Fair.
yeah. So I think maybe there's the different philosophy there too. If they're, doing emails or whatever, maybe there's cold calling that happens again there too, or something, maybe there's a way to generate a bit more funding for that.
Civic sends out letters though, because we mail them. So they send letters to all the businesses.
And
Okay,
to Alderwoman Day's point about spending first, I think that was made clear when it was brought forward for the drone show last year to spend $9,000. And when I had asked how that was going to be paid for, it was, well, we have donations that are coming forward, yet our donations were actually $7,000 down from last year and relatively flat as what they've been over the years. So ultimately, the way that I look at it is there was no additional donations to support that $9,000 drone show that we told we were going to have. So it's really important to, just stay within your budget.
Beccarelli.
So so it gets back to just two quick items. One is it's the projection. So you got revenue and you got donations, but even civic donations is a small part, right? It's the sales, like ticket sales and things like that. That's what drives it. So you're trying to project that, and I think some help in how to project those types of things would be helpful, especially in some sensitivity around if it's a lower attendance versus higher attendance, right? And there's a lot of things that drive it being on there. So that's just one. And then the second is just a lot of things like t-shirts and other things that came up, kind of, it's the idea of if we take all that stuff and bring it up a level and kind of do that at the city, I think we'll see a lot of benefits across all of these, because I do think you're going to have more people that have experience and what options are out there, and we're going to get more consistency, and we're going to have more essentially buying power, right? So I do think there's a lot of opportunity there, because otherwise each of these are kind of off on their own trying to find the right vendors and who's been good to work with and all types of things, right? And so they build relationships that way. But, I do think there's opportunity there. So that's it.
Agreed. Just to go back to Madam Director of Finance, earlier you said it was over 80,000.
I meant to correct myself. It was 80,000 for contractors. It's
Right.
55,000-ish
Got you. Okay.
for personnel.
So it's crazy how that almost parallels the fair. Anyway, so there is a motion here. Madam Director of Administration, do you want to adjust that motion at all? Are you good with as stated?
I'm fine with it as stated. One of the things I was thinking about, though, is so these commissions run on volunteers. We have residents who work here, and if you're going to these events, maybe you'd volunteer some of your time to do what you would otherwise be getting paid to do. I mean, that's an option too. Or have well, I guess some of the commissions can't really take over and handle the whole scope, obviously, but I think that there are things, there's scaling to your budget is probably first and foremost.
Okay, so you're good with the motion as listed. Okay, is there a motion for this?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Going on to G17. An ordinance to amend 36-1A as an addendum sub 10, Financial Disclosure Environmental Commission of the Municipal Code and 15-10.0208, special exceptions to stream, shore buffer, navigable water-related, wetland buffer, and wetland setback provisions, and improvements or enhancements to a natural resource feature, subsections B as in boy and B, point 2, point D as in David, point XI of the Unified Development Ordinance to remove Environmental Commission and to replace Environmental Commission with Parks Commission respectfully. Madam Director of Administration, anything on this? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, but it does look like the attorney does.
Yes. Counselor?
It's all here just for the record, why this is being changed. Short version, Common Council repealed the Environmental Commission and transferred all the duties to the Parks Commission, essentially effective May 1, when that was all put together, drafted. Oh, there were 2 or 3 spots elsewhere in the Municipal Code UDO that mentioned Environmental Commission, so that had to be changed. All this does is change a couple of those mentions to Parks Commissions, and where Environmental Commission is listed with 38 other entities, officers, that you have to file a financial report, that just gets changed to a reserved spot instead of changing whatever, number 10 or 11, and renumbering the whole 30. So
Excellent. Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion, I'll make the motion.
Second.
First and a second. Were you going to make the motion?
Yeah, I was going to make the motion and look forward enthusiastically to joining the Parks Commission.
Excellent. Parks and Environmental, first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a short break. So we're going to go into G18. A motion to enter in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, sub 1, sub G as in George, to confer with legal counsel for the common council who is rendering advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to the City of Franklin versus BPC Master Developer LLC and Michael Zimmerman, Milwaukee County Circuit Court Case Number 24-CV-7479, litigation and/or possible litigation related to the 2024 shortfall payment under the TID 5 Development Agreement, and to re-enter open and closed session into open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to go into closed.
There's a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
First and second, roll call, please.
Alderman Craig,
Aye.
Alderman Salus,
Aye.
Alderwoman Day,
Aye.
Alderman Hassan,
Yeah, aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
An engagement of Haling and KOSC for litigation support services and to proceed as discussed in closed session.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. This will be a roll call, please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. Moving on to G19. A motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub E, for competitive and bargaining reasons to consider the potential acquisition of the property at 9371 West Loomis Road, tax key number 801-9995-000, 1.565 acres, and the property adjacent thereto, tax key number 801-9996-000, 3.629 acres for public services uses and public facilities purposes, and the negotiating of the purchase and the investing of public funds with regard to the potential acquisition thereof, and to re-enter open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate. There a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're slowly, what?
Don't we have to do a roll call to go in?
We don't have to. Slowly going into closed session. It was unanimous. It is now 9:16 PM. We are back in open session for the City of Franklin Common Council meeting. Is there a motion to proceed as discussed in closed session?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Now we will move forward to letter H, licensing. Who is taking this tonight?
I am, Mayor.
Alderwoman Eichmann, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. The License Committee met earlier today. And as we are looking at several applicants on here to approve, as we look at the first page, all were approved with the exception of two operators. Tanisha Thomas LaFleur and Elizabeth Woodward, as we are requesting correction of applications. As we move on to page 2, all were approved. Then we go to page 3. All were approved with the exception of Justin Hoffman. We put that on hold as we are requesting for him to meet with the License Committee. Then we go to page 4, all were approved. Then we go on to page 5 of 6. All were approved with the exception of Rebecca Shallow and Jasmine Bezapalik. I apologize, I'm not pronouncing these names correctly, as those two applicants need to come in and make corrections on their applications. Page 6 of 6, all were approved. Thank you. Make
Is
a
it-
motion.
Is there a second to this?
I'll second.
Ooh. Alderwoman Day is the second. Let's do a roll call on this.
Alderman Pecorelli?
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann?
Aye.
Alderman Hassan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Day?
Aye.
Alderman Salus?
Aye.
Alderman Craig?
Aye.
6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. Well done. Going to I as in Ida, voucher and payroll approval. There are 4 points, and this will also be a roll call. City vouchers with an ending date of April 10th, 2025, in the amount of $750,808.56. Point 2, payroll dated April 4th, 2025, in the amount of $467,798.21, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $266,025.99, plus city matching payments. And point 3, estimated payroll dated April 18th, 2025, in the amount of $531,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $547,000 plus city matching payments. Final point, estimated payroll dated May 2nd, 2025, in the amount of $481,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $270,000 plus city matching payments. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Craig?
Aye.
Alderman Salus?
Aye.
Alderwoman Day?
Aye.
Alderman Hassan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann?
Aye.
Alderman Pecorelli?
Aye. 6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes